Earth strikes back. Aliens regret ever attacking. The morning sky over New York City burned orange as massive ships descended through the clouds. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the laboratory window, watching humanity's first contact unfold in the worst possible way. The alien vessels, each the size of Manhattan, cast shadows that plunged entire city blocks into darkness. "They're not responding to any of our communication attempts," Colonel Marcus Rodriguez said, bursting into the research facility. His military uniform was already dusty from the chaos outside. "We need to evacuate the city immediately." Sarah turned away from the window, her mind racing. She had spent 15 years studying theoretical xenobiology, preparing for this moment, but nothing in her research had prepared her for the reality of hostile contact. The ships hung motionless for exactly 67 minutes before the first energy beams struck. The Statue of Liberty melted like wax under the alien weapon fire. Buildings crumbled as if they were made of sand. The Hudson River boiled and steamed where the beams touched its surface. Within hours, Manhattan was unrecognizable. The aliens moved with mechanical precision, destroying military installations first, then government buildings, then anything that might represent human technology or culture. General Harrison Stone watched the destruction from his bunker, deep beneath Colorado's Cheyenne Mountain. The screens around him showed similar scenes from every major city on Earth. London burned. Tokyo was silent. Moscow had gone dark. The aliens weren't just attacking random targets. They were systematically dismantling human civilization. "Sir, we're getting reports from around the globe," Lieutenant Andrews reported, his voice shaking. "Every major population center is under attack. Their weapons are unlike anything we've ever seen. Our jets can't even get close to their ships." The general studied the tactical displays with growing dread. Humanity's most advanced fighter aircraft were being swatted from the sky like insects. Nuclear missiles simply bounced off the alien ships' energy shields. Even their most powerful bunker-busting bombs had no effect whatsoever. But something strange was happening in the data streams. While the aliens destroyed infrastructure and military targets with ruthless efficiency, they seemed to be avoiding civilian casualties when possible. Their weapons were precise, almost surgical. When humans fled from targeted areas, the aliens waited. They weren't trying to exterminate humanity. They were trying to break it. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the world's leading expert on quantum physics, noticed the pattern first. From her hidden laboratory in the Swiss Alps, she analyzed the alien technology through intercepted communications and weapon signatures. Their energy shields operated on principles that human science had only theorized about. Their propulsion systems bent space-time itself. "They're not just more advanced than us," she told the Emergency Council via encrypted satellite link. "They're operating on physical laws we barely understand. This isn't a fair fight. It's like Bronze Age warriors trying to battle modern tanks." The aliens maintained their assault for exactly 72 hours before transmitting their first message to humanity. The signal came simultaneously on every frequency, in every language, directly into the mind of every human being on Earth. The mental intrusion was gentle but absolute. No human could ignore or block the communication. "Humans of Earth," the voice said without words, speaking directly to human consciousness. "You have been evaluated and found primitive. Your species shows dangerous aggressive tendencies combined with rapidly advancing technology. This combination threatens the stability of this galactic region." Sarah felt the alien words forming in her mind as clearly as her own thoughts. Around the world, every human experienced the same terrifying clarity. The aliens continued their message without pause or emotion. "Your civilization will be reduced to a pre-industrial state. Your space capabilities will be eliminated. Your weapons of mass destruction will be neutralized. You will be monitored and contained on this planet until your species demonstrates sufficient wisdom to join galactic society. Resistance is futile. Your technology is insufficient." The message ended as abruptly as it began, leaving 7 billion humans in stunned silence. The aliens had delivered their ultimatum with the casual indifference of exterminators explaining their methods to insects. They weren't conquerors seeking resources or territory. They were galactic police imposing sentence on a species they deemed too dangerous to remain free. In his underground command center, General Stone gathered his remaining military advisors. The situation reports painted a grim picture. Every major military installation on Earth had been destroyed or neutralized. Satellite networks were down. Nuclear arsenals had been mysteriously deactivated. Even submarines hiding in the deepest ocean trenches had been detected and disabled. "What are our options, General?" asked Admiral Chen, commander of what remained of the Pacific Fleet. Stone looked at the faces around him. These were the best military minds humanity had to offer, and they all wore the same expression of helpless frustration. Their training, their experience, their entire understanding of warfare meant nothing against an enemy this advanced. "Conventional resistance is impossible," Stone admitted. "Our weapons can't penetrate their defenses. Our communication systems are compromised. They can reach into our minds at will. By every military doctrine we know, we should surrender immediately." But even as he spoke the words, something in the general's voice suggested he wasn't ready to give up. Around the table, the other officers nodded grimly. They were military leaders. Surrender wasn't in their vocabulary even when facing impossible odds. However, Stone continued, the aliens made one critical error in their assessment. They evaluated our technology and found it primitive. They studied our military capabilities and found them insufficient, but they clearly don't understand the most dangerous thing about humanity. The room fell silent as everyone waited for the general to continue. Outside, the alien ships continued their methodical destruction of human infrastructure. But inside the bunker, a different kind of resistance was beginning to form. "They don't understand that humans have never been defined by our technology," Stone said quietly. "They don't realize that our greatest weapon isn't our bombs or our bullets. It's something they can't scan or analyze or neutralize with their advanced science." Sarah, watching from her own hidden facility, felt the same thought forming. The aliens had made their first mistake. They had given humanity time to think, to plan, to remember what made them uniquely dangerous among the species of the galaxy. The invasion had succeeded perfectly, but the war was just beginning. When Earth strikes back, aliens regret ever attacking. 3 months after the invasion, the aliens believed they had successfully pacified Earth. Their massive ships patrolled the skies above major cities, maintaining perfect order. No human government functioned. No military force operated openly. The planet's technological infrastructure lay in carefully calculated ruins. Commander Zektar of the Hegemony Fleet reviewed his mission reports with satisfaction. His species, the Kythera, had conducted 17 similar containment operations across the galaxy. Primitive civilizations always followed the same pattern after demonstration of superior force. They submitted, adapted, and eventually forgot their brief dreams of expansion beyond their home worlds. Status report. Zektar commanded his tactical officer through their shared mental network. "All human population centers remain pacified," came the immediate response. "No organized resistance detected. Their primitive communication networks stay offline. Industrial capacity reduced by 94%. Mission parameters achieved within acceptable timeframes." But deep beneath the Colorado mountains, General Stone was discovering that the aliens' monitoring capabilities had significant blind spots. The ancient granite formations interfered with their scanning technology. More importantly, the aliens seemed incapable of understanding human ingenuity when it operated outside technological frameworks. "They're watching for radio signals, satellite communications, and digital networks," Stone explained to the assembled resistance leaders. "But they're not monitoring courier networks, dead drops, or face-to-face communication. Their minds think in terms of advanced technology. They can't comprehend that humans might revert to methods their own species abandoned millennia ago." Sarah had spent the past months traveling through underground tunnels and abandoned subway systems, carrying handwritten messages between hidden research facilities. The alien scanners detected her presence but dismissed her as another refugee seeking shelter. They couldn't imagine that the small backpack she carried contained theoretical breakthrough that would change everything. Dr. Vasquez had made the discovery by accident while analyzing debris from a downed alien scout ship. The wreckage had been carefully hidden in a mine shaft away from alien surveillance. What she found challenged everything humanity thought they knew about physics. "Their technology isn't just advanced," she explained to Sarah during a clandestine meeting in an abandoned train station. "It's based on quantum field manipulation at the subatomic level." But here's the interesting part. Their power systems have a fatal weakness. They require absolute stability in quantum coherence patterns. Sarah studied the handwritten equations by flashlight. "What does that mean in practical terms?" It means their entire technological framework collapses if you introduce chaotic quantum fluctuations at specific frequencies, Elena replied. Think of it like destroying a piano by playing exactly the wrong note at exactly the right volume. The implications were staggering. Humanity didn't need to match alien technology. They needed to break it. And breaking things had always been one of humanity's greatest talents. Meanwhile, resistance cells were forming across the globe using methods the aliens couldn't predict or counter. In the sewers beneath Paris, former French Foreign Legion soldiers taught urban warfare to civilian volunteers. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal elders shared traditional survival techniques that allowed humans to move undetected across vast distances. The aliens had disabled GPS systems and destroyed satellite networks, assuming this would cripple human coordination. They never considered that humans had been navigating by stars, landmarks, and instinct for thousands of years before satellites existed. Resistance fighters used techniques their ancestors would have recognized. Captain Maria Santos led one such cell through the ruins of Mexico City. Her team included a former computer programmer, a retired teacher, 2 teenagers, and an elderly mechanic. By alien standards, they possessed no significant technology or training. By human standards, they were exactly what the situation required. The patrol ships follow predictable patterns, Maria explained, drawing diagrams in the dirt with a stick. They scan the same routes every 6 hours, but they don't understand human behavior patterns. They expect us to follow roads, use bridges, enter buildings through doors. Her team nodded understanding. Humans could climb walls, swim through flooded tunnels, hide in spaces too small for alien sensors to effectively monitor. They could survive on scraps, sleep in shifts, and coordinate without any technology more advanced than hand signals. The aliens' surveillance network was incredibly sophisticated but also incredibly literal. It looked for threats it understood. When humans began moving like animals instead of civilized beings, the alien sensors simply didn't know how to interpret the data. Dr. Chen had established a hidden laboratory in the New York subway tunnels, powered by hand-cranked generators and lit by candles. Her work focused on Elena's quantum disruption theory. The mathematics were complex, but the practical application might be surprisingly simple. "We don't need a massive power source," she reported through the courier network. "The alien ships maintain their quantum coherence through resonance amplification. If we can create the right interference pattern, their own power systems will do most of our work for us." The resistance leadership faced a crucial decision. They could spend years developing a theoretical weapon that might work, or they could begin immediate testing with whatever materials they could gather. General Stone chose the path that every successful military leader throughout human history had taken when facing overwhelming odds. "We test it immediately," he decided. "If it works, we scale up. If it fails, we learn from the failure and try again." The aliens think in terms of careful planning and perfect execution. They can't adapt to human improvisation. The first test device was built in a hidden workshop beneath the ruins of MIT. It consisted of salvaged electronics, car batteries, and components cannibalized from 20 different sources. By alien standards, it was hopelessly primitive. By human standards, it was exactly what they needed to save their species. 3 former physics students and a retired electrician assembled the device using tools that wouldn't have been out of place in a 19th century workshop. No computers, no precision manufacturing, no clean rooms or sophisticated measurement equipment. Just human hands, human brains, and human determination to make something work despite impossible limitations. The device was ready for testing exactly 4 months and 11 days after the invasion began. As Sarah connected the final wire by candlelight, she realized that humanity was about to discover whether their greatest weakness could become their greatest strength. The aliens had conquered Earth using technology humanity couldn't match. Now humanity would fight back using methods the aliens couldn't understand. The war was about to enter a phase that no galactic civilization had ever experienced. Commander Zektar, monitoring his sensors from orbit, detected unusual energy signatures from 17 locations around the globe. His analysis systems couldn't identify the source or purpose of the readings. For the first time since the invasion began, the alien commander felt something his species rarely experienced: uncertainty. The first quantum disruption device activated at exactly 3:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sarah held her breath as the improvised machine hummed to life in the abandoned subway tunnel. The device looked like something assembled by a mad scientist. All exposed wires and salvaged components held together with duct tape and determination. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the lights in the tunnel flickered, and every piece of electronic equipment within a 3-mile radius simultaneously malfunctioned. Car alarms wailed in the distance. Emergency generators failed. Even the simple LED flashlights the resistance fighters carried went dark. But most importantly, the alien patrol ship cruising overhead suddenly dropped from the sky like a stone. "My God," whispered Dr. Chen, watching through makeshift periscopes as the massive vessel crashed into the East River. It actually worked. The alien ship didn't explode or burn. It simply stopped functioning entirely, as if someone had unplugged the universe's most advanced machine. Through telescopes salvaged from a destroyed observatory, the Resistance watched alien crew members emerge from their crashed vessel, moving with obvious confusion and distress. Within hours, similar reports flooded in through the courier network. Quantum disruption devices activated simultaneously in Paris, Tokyo, Sydney, and 14 other locations around the globe. Each device brought down exactly one alien patrol ship. The mathematical precision was no accident. General Stone had coordinated the global strike using nothing more sophisticated than written messages carried by human couriers on foot, bicycle, and horseback. The aliens monitoring for technological communication signatures never detected the massive operation unfolding beneath their sensors. Commander Zektar stared at his tactical displays in growing alarm. 17 patrol ships had suffered catastrophic system failures within a 6-hour window. His analysis computers insisted the incidents were unrelated mechanical malfunctions. The probability calculations were mathematically impossible, but his sensors detected no coordinated attack. "Recall all patrol ships to minimum safe altitude," he ordered his fleet. "Initiate full-spectrum analysis of all energy signatures on the planet's surface." But the Kythera had never encountered an enemy that deliberately used primitive technology as a weapon. Their scanning systems were designed to detect advanced threats, not hand-built devices powered by car batteries and operated by humans with screwdrivers. The downed alien vessels provided an unexpected treasure trove of intelligence. Resistance teams swarmed the crash sites, carefully documenting everything they found before alien recovery teams arrived. The crashed ships confirmed Dr. Vasquez's theories about quantum field manipulation, but also revealed something far more important. The aliens were not invincible. Captain Santos led her team through the Mexico City crash site, photographing alien technology with cameras that used actual film instead of digital sensors. The alien sensors could detect and jam electronic devices, but they had no countermeasures against chemical photography developed in basement darkrooms. "Look at this," called Miguel, the former computer programmer turned resistance fighter. He pointed to a section of alien hull that had cracked during the crash. "Their armor is some kind of crystalline matrix. Incredibly strong but brittle. It doesn't bend like metal. When it fails, it shatters completely." Maria nodded, making careful notes. Human engineers had always been forced to work with imperfect materials. They understood stress fractures, metal fatigue, and catastrophic failure modes. The aliens, with their perfect manufacturing capabilities, seemed to have forgotten that even the strongest materials had breaking points. The Resistance began adapting their tactics immediately. If alien technology was brittle rather than flexible, humans could exploit that weakness. They didn't need weapons that could overpower alien defenses. They needed weapons that could find the exact point where those defenses would shatter. Dr. Vasquez established a new research priority: studying alien materials science through crash site samples. Working in a hidden laboratory carved from a natural cave system, she discovered that alien technology relied heavily on artificially perfect crystal matrices. The crystals were stronger than any material humanity had ever created, but they required absolute environmental stability to maintain their structural integrity. "It's like they've never encountered chaos theory," she explained to Sarah during another clandestine meeting. "Their entire technological framework assumes that systems will operate under perfect conditions. They can't adapt to unexpected variables." Sarah understood the implications immediately. Humans have been dealing with unexpected variables for our entire evolutionary history. We specialize in making things work when conditions are far from perfect. The Resistance began developing new weapons based on this insight. Instead of trying to match alien power levels, they focused on introducing maximum chaos into alien systems. They built devices that generated random electromagnetic pulses, created unpredictable quantum fluctuations, and produced precisely the kind of environmental instability that would cause alien crystal matrices to shatter. Meanwhile, the aliens struggled to understand what was happening. Commander Zektar's species had evolved in a stable environment where technological solutions always followed logical patterns. They had never encountered a species that deliberately used randomness and unpredictability as tactical advantages. The humans appear to be using some form of primitive quantum manipulation, his science officer reported, but our analysis indicates their technology should be insufficient for such applications. The energy signatures are too chaotic to represent deliberate engineering. Zektar studied the data with growing frustration. According to every scientific principle his species understood, the human attacks should be impossible. Primitive civilizations didn't possess quantum disruption capabilities. They certainly couldn't coordinate global operations without detectable communication networks, but the evidence was undeniable. 17 patrol ships down, no survivors willing to admit what had actually happened, and energy readings that suggested the humans were somehow turning their technological primitiveness into a weapon. The resistance prepared for the next phase of their campaign. They had proven that alien technology could be disrupted. Now they needed to prove that it could be destroyed entirely. General Stone authorized the construction of larger quantum disruption devices, designed not just to disable individual ships but to create cascading system failures across entire alien fleets. The new devices required more sophisticated components, but human ingenuity found ways to source everything needed without triggering alien detection systems. Resistance fighters raided abandoned electronic stores, stripped copper wire from destroyed buildings, and salvaged rare earth elements from crashed human technology. Each component was transported separately through the hidden courier network. The aliens' sensors detected individual humans carrying small packages, but their analysis systems couldn't recognize that those packages were actually components of a weapon system their science considered theoretically impossible. Dr. Chen led the technical assembly teams, working in hidden workshops scattered across the globe. The devices were built using hand tools, assembled by candlelight and tested with equipment that hadn't changed fundamentally since the 19th century. The aliens monitored constantly for signs of advanced manufacturing, never imagining that their enemies were building quantum weapons in facilities that looked more like medieval workshops. 6 weeks after the first successful tests, humanity was ready to demonstrate that their initial victory hadn't been a fluke. The second wave of quantum disruption devices was bigger, more powerful, and designed to target the aliens' largest ships. As Sarah connected the final components of the New York device, she realized that humanity had found something the aliens never expected: the ability to use their greatest weakness as their greatest strength. The aliens had dismissed humans as primitive. They were about to learn that sometimes primitive was exactly what the situation required. Above the Earth, Commander Zektar prepared his fleet for what he assumed would be a routine pacification sweep. His sensors showed no signs of organized human resistance. His analysis computers confirmed that the planet remained safely contained. He had no idea that 17 hidden workshops were about to simultaneously activate weapons that would change the course of galactic history. The second wave of quantum disruption devices activated simultaneously across 17 time zones. This time the resistance wasn't targeting patrol ships. They were aiming for the massive motherships that served as command centers for the alien occupation force. Commander Zektar felt the first disruption as a subtle vibration through his flagship's deck plating. Within seconds, the vibration became a violent shaking that threw crew members to the floor. Warning displays flashed across every control surface as critical systems began failing in sequence. "Report," he commanded, struggling to maintain his footing as his ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. "Quantum field collapse in progress," his science officer replied, fear evident in his mental transmission, structural integrity dropping below safe parameters. All primary systems experiencing cascading failures. Through the viewports, Zektar watched in horror as 6 other motherships suffered identical fates. The massive vessels, each capable of devastating entire planets, were shaking themselves apart from the inside. Their perfect crystalline hulls developed hairline fractures that spread like spiderwebs across their surfaces. On Earth's surface, resistance fighters watched the alien fleet disintegrate through telescopes and binoculars. The sight was better than any fireworks display humanity had ever created. Ships the size of cities were breaking apart in orbit, their debris creating artificial meteor showers that lit up the night sky. All ships, emergency ascent to orbital safety distance, Zektar ordered. But even as his remaining vessels climbed toward higher orbit, he realized the true scope of the disaster. The quantum disruption wasn't limited to his immediate fleet. Reports flooded in from other hegemony forces across the galaxy. Similar attacks were occurring on 17 different worlds. Dr. Vasquez watched the orbital fireworks from her hidden laboratory, feeling a mixture of triumph and scientific fascination. The quantum disruption effect was propagating exactly as her calculations predicted. The aliens' own communication networks were carrying the disruptive frequencies across interstellar distances, spreading the chaos to fleets light years away. They built their entire civilization around quantum entanglement communications, she explained to her assembled team. Every ship, every station, every outpost is connected through instantaneous quantum links. We just turned their greatest advantage into their greatest vulnerability. The aliens had never encountered an enemy that understood the strategic implications of networked systems failure. Their quantum communication grid allowed instantaneous coordination across galactic distances, but it also meant that a sufficiently powerful disruption could cascade through their entire infrastructure. General Stone received the success reports through his courier network with grim satisfaction. The second wave had exceeded all expectations. Not only had they destroyed the Earth occupation fleet, but they had apparently damaged alien forces throughout the galaxy. Humanity had gone from helpless victim to galactic threat in the span of 6 hours. But Stone knew the aliens would adapt quickly. The resistance needed to press their advantage before the enemy could develop countermeasures. He authorized the construction of even larger disruption devices, designed to target the aliens' homeworld infrastructure. The third phase of the human resistance required resources that couldn't be salvaged from crashed alien technology. They needed industrial manufacturing capabilities that the aliens had specifically targeted for destruction. But humans had been improvising industrial solutions since the dawn of civilization. Sarah led a team into the ruins of the Pittsburgh steel mills, now cold and abandoned since the invasion. The aliens had destroyed the computerized control systems and precision machinery, assuming this would permanently disable human heavy industry. They had never considered that humans might revert to manual production methods. "We can't restore the automated systems," explained Jack Morrison, a master steelworker who had spent 40 years in the mills before the invasion, "but we can operate the basic furnaces manually. It'll be slow, dangerous work, but we can produce the materials we need." The resistance established hidden foundries throughout the former industrial heartland, using techniques that would have been familiar to steelworkers from the 19th century. They melted scrap metal in furnaces fired by coal and wood, shaped components with hand tools and muscle power, and assembled complex devices using methods the aliens couldn't detect because they predated electronic monitoring by centuries. Captain Santos coordinated similar efforts across the globe. Former factory workers in Germany restarted chemical production using recipes passed down through generations. Australian miners reopened abandoned shafts to extract rare earth elements. Japanese craftsmen applied traditional metalworking techniques to create precision components for quantum disruption devices. The aliens monitored constantly for signs of renewed industrial activity, but their sensors were calibrated to detect modern manufacturing signatures. Steam-powered machinery, coal-fired furnaces, and hand-operated tools simply didn't register as significant threats to a civilization that had forgotten such primitive methods could produce useful results. Commander Zektar struggled to comprehend the intelligence reports filtering in from his remaining scouts. The humans appeared to be rebuilding their industrial capacity, using methods that predated their technological civilization by centuries. According to every xenological study the hegemony had ever conducted, such regression should indicate a species in terminal decline. But the energy signatures suggested otherwise. The humans weren't just maintaining their previous technology level. They were creating something entirely new, combining primitive manufacturing methods with quantum physics. applications that challenged the hegemony's understanding of physical science. How are they achieving quantum field manipulation with such primitive power sources? Zektar demanded of his science staff. Unknown, Commander, came the frustrated reply. Our models indicate their energy levels should be insufficient for such applications. Yet the disruption effects are undeniably real and increasingly sophisticated. The truth was that humans had never been limited by their power sources the way the aliens assumed. Human innovation had always focused on achieving maximum effect with minimum resources. When faced with seemingly impossible limitations, humans didn't surrender. They found ways to make the impossible work anyway. Dr. Chen led the development of the most ambitious quantum disruption device yet attempted. Instead of targeting individual ships or fleets, this device was designed to create a disruption wave that would propagate through the aliens' quantum communication network and disable their infrastructure across multiple star systems. The device required precision, manufacturing tolerances that seemed impossible to achieve, with manual labor and primitive tools. But human craftsmen had been creating precision mechanisms for centuries before computer-controlled machinery existed. Watchmakers, instrument makers, and tool and die specialists brought skills to the resistance that the aliens couldn't quantify or predict. Every component has to be perfect, Chen explained to the assembly teams. One mistake and the device won't just fail, it might create a feedback loop that destroys half the planet. The craftsmen nodded, understanding. They had spent their careers creating mechanisms where tolerances were measured in thousandths of an inch, using nothing more sophisticated than hand tools and experienced judgment. The quantum disruption device might be beyond alien comprehension, but the manufacturing challenge was exactly what human expertise had been developing for millennia. As the third phase devices neared completion, resistance fighters began reporting unusual alien behavior. The remaining occupation ships were pulling back to higher orbits, maintaining minimal contact with Earth's surface. Alien patrol schedules became erratic and unpredictable. Most significantly, the aliens stopped their regular mental broadcasts to human population centers. They're afraid, Sarah realized, studying the intelligence reports by candlelight in her underground laboratory. For the first time since they arrived, the aliens are genuinely afraid of what humanity might do next. The psychological implications were staggering. The hegemony had built its galactic dominance on the assumption that superior technology guaranteed victory. They had never encountered a species that could turn technological primitiveness into a strategic advantage. The humans weren't just winning battles. They were challenging the fundamental assumptions that held alien civilization together. General Stone prepared to authorize the activation of the third phase devices. If successful, the next attack would demonstrate that Earth wasn't just defending itself. Humanity was ready to take the war directly to the aliens' home systems. The resistance had evolved from desperate survivors to galactic revolutionaries in less than a year. Soon the aliens would discover what every human military leader throughout history had learned. Never underestimate an enemy who has nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The third wave of quantum disruption devices activated at dawn on a Tuesday, exactly 9 months after the initial invasion. This time, the target wasn't alien ships in Earth's vicinity. Dr. Chen's masterpiece was designed to send disruption waves directly through the aliens' quantum communication network to their homeworld, 23 light-years away. Commander Zektar felt the effects instantly as his flagship's communication array exploded in a shower of crystalline fragments. Across the ship, every quantum-linked system failed simultaneously. Navigation, life support, artificial gravity, and even basic lighting died as the cascade failure propagated through their integrated networks. But the true horror became apparent when his emergency communications finally came online. The disruption hadn't just affected his fleet. Every hegemony installation, from their core worlds to their most distant outposts, was reporting catastrophic system failures. Millennia of technological achievement was crashing down like a house of cards. On the hegemony homeworld of Cathara Prime, High Command watched their civilization's infrastructure collapse in real time. Orbital platforms fell from the sky. Underwater cities lost power and began flooding. Transportation networks that had operated flawlessly for thousands of years simply stopped functioning. How is this possible? Demanded Supreme Commander Veltar, leader of the Hegemony Council. We are observing quantum field disruption originating from a primitive world that shouldn't possess the theoretical knowledge to understand basic quantum mechanics. His science advisors had no answer. According to every xenological study they had ever conducted, technological development followed predictable patterns. Species either advanced steadily through recognizable stages, or they destroyed themselves attempting to handle technologies beyond their comprehension. Earth's humans were following neither pattern. The disruption effects suggest they have somehow weaponized quantum uncertainty itself, reported Chief Scientist Mordar. But this should be theoretically impossible. Quantum uncertainty cannot be controlled or directed. It is by definition random and unpredictable. What the aliens failed to understand was that humans had never tried to control randomness. Instead, they had learned to use randomness as a tool. Human mathematics included chaos theory, probability calculations, and statistical analysis specifically, because humans lived in an unpredictable universe and needed methods to work with uncertainty rather than against it. Dr. Vasquez monitored the results of the third wave from her cave laboratory, tracking the propagation effects through careful analysis of alien communication fragments. The disruption was spreading through their network faster than the aliens could disconnect affected systems. Each time they tried to isolate damaged areas, the quantum entanglement effects carried the disruption to new nodes. They built their entire civilization on the assumption that quantum systems could be perfectly controlled, she explained to her team. Every connection, every communication link, every piece of integrated technology depends on absolute quantum coherence. When that breaks down, everything breaks down. The implications went far beyond military victory. The hegemony had used their technological superiority to dominate hundreds of star systems. If their core infrastructure was failing, every subject species in their empire would recognize that the seemingly invincible overlords were actually fatally vulnerable. General Stone received confirmation of the third wave's success through a most unexpected source: intercepted alien emergency transmissions. The resistance had become sufficiently sophisticated at decoding alien communications that they could monitor the enemy's growing panic in real time. They're requesting immediate evacuation of all occupation forces. Lieutenant Andrews reported, barely able to contain his excitement. Every human world, every contested system, every forward outpost. The entire hegemony military is being recalled to defend their core territories. But Stone understood that humanity had moved beyond simple defense. The quantum disruption technology had proven that humans could project power across interstellar distances using methods the aliens couldn't counter. Earth was no longer a contained primitive world. It had become the most dangerous military threat the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Santos coordinated the liberation of major population centers as alien forces withdrew in obvious panic. The massive occupation ships that had terrorized human cities for months were now fleeing toward orbit as quickly as their damaged systems would allow. On the ground, alien garrison troops abandoned their positions without attempting to destroy human infrastructure. They're not conducting an organized withdrawal, Maria reported through the courier network. This is a complete rout. They're abandoning equipment, leaving defensive positions unmanned and boarding any spacecraft that can still fly. The psychological impact on human survivors was immediate and dramatic. For 9 months, humanity had lived under the shadow of seemingly invincible alien technology. Watching their oppressors flee in terror was more therapeutic than any victory celebration could have been. But the resistance leadership understood that the war was entering its most dangerous phase. Wounded and desperate enemies were often more dangerous than confident ones. The aliens might attempt a final devastating attack before their military capabilities deteriorated. Completely, Dr. Chen began development of defensive quantum disruption fields designed to protect Earth from potential retaliatory strikes. If the aliens decided to destroy the planet rather than allow humanity to continue threatening their empire, the resistance needed countermeasures that could disable incoming weapons before they reached their targets. The defensive systems required even more sophisticated engineering than the offensive devices. They needed to create stable quantum disruption fields that could be maintained continuously, without degrading the technology they were designed to protect. The mathematical challenges were staggering, but human engineers had always specialized in making impossible requirements work. Sarah led teams of volunteer technicians in establishing defensive installations around major population centers. The installations looked more like abstract art sculptures than military hardware, consisting of precisely shaped metal frameworks that generated quantum field geometries too complex for alien science to analyze or counter. Meanwhile, the aliens struggled with military problems they had never encountered before. Commander Zektar found himself commanding a fleet whose advanced technology was becoming increasingly unreliable. Ship systems failed randomly, navigation became erratic, and even basic life support required constant manual intervention. "Our quantum matrices are destabilizing faster than we can repair them," his chief engineer reported. "Each time we attempt to restore coherence, the human disruption effects introduce new variables that cascade through our entire infrastructure." Tar realized his species faced an enemy that fought using principles they had never needed to understand. The hegemony had built their civilization on the assumption that superior technology would always triumph over primitive force. They had never considered the possibility that primitive force might deliberately exploit the vulnerabilities created by technological sophistication. The fourth phase of human resistance began even before the aliens completed their withdrawal from Earth. This time, the objective wasn't defense or retaliation. Humanity was ready to carry the war directly to alien territory, using captured ships and reverse-engineered technology to launch expeditionary forces against hegemony installations. The captured alien vessels required extensive modification to accommodate human crew requirements. Alien life support systems were designed for a species with completely different atmospheric and gravitational needs. Human engineers solved the compatibility problems using the same improvisational techniques that had made quantum disruption weapons possible. "We can't replicate their technology," explained Jack Morrison, who had transitioned from steelworker to spacecraft engineer with typical human adaptability. "But we can make their technology work for us. It's like rebuilding a car engine. When you don't understand the physics but you know what each component does." The first human expedition to alien space consisted of 3 captured ships crewed by volunteers who understood they might be embarking on a one-way mission. Their objective was to establish that humanity could operate beyond Earth's protective quantum disruption fields and engage alien forces on their own territory. As the modified ships prepared for departure, Sarah realized that humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. A species dismissed as primitive had not only defeated a technologically superior enemy, but had done so using methods that challenged the fundamental assumptions of advanced civilization. The aliens had attacked Earth expecting to find another routine pacification target. Instead, they had awakened something that would reshape the balance of power throughout the galaxy. The war that began with humanity's near extinction was about to become humanity's declaration of independence from any species that believed technological advancement gave them the right to dominate others. The first human expedition into alien space launched exactly 1 year after the initial invasion. Captain Maria Santos commanded the lead ship, a captured hegemony cruiser that had been extensively modified with human engineering solutions. Her crew of 37 volunteers represented every major discipline humanity could offer: engineers, scientists, soldiers, and craftsmen who had proven that human ingenuity could overcome any technological disadvantage. The 3 ships departed Earth using navigation systems that combined alien star charts with human intuition. The hegemony's quantum navigation networks were still experiencing cascade failures from the disruption waves, but human astronomers had been plotting stellar positions for centuries without needing artificial assistance. "All systems stable," reported Chief Engineer Morrison from the modified engine room. "The quantum disruption fields are holding steady. Alien technology is operating within acceptable human parameters." The journey to the nearest hegemony outpost took 6 days through hyperspace. During transit, the expedition monitored alien communications channels and discovered that their departure from Earth had created panic throughout the enemy command structure. Hegemony forces had never faced the prospect of human military units operating independently in alien territory. Supreme Commander Veltar convened an emergency session of the Hegemony Council as reports confirmed the impossible. 3 primitive vessels had somehow achieved interstellar capability and were approaching the strategic outpost at Kepler Station. According to every xenological assessment, Humans shouldn't have been able to operate captured alien technology without decades of study and training. How are they maintaining quantum coherence in their modified systems? Demanded Council Member Thekran. Their ship modifications should have destabilized the entire propulsion matrix within hours of activation. The answer lay in human engineering philosophy. Where alien technology required perfect conditions and precise tolerances, human modifications focused on redundancy, adaptability, and fail-safe mechanisms. The human crews had essentially turned sophisticated alien ships into rugged human spacecraft that could operate reliably under conditions that would cripple original hegemony. Vessels. Captain Santos brought her small fleet out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system and immediately implemented tactics that no alien military academy had ever taught. Instead of approaching the station directly, her ship scattered and began broadcasting false quantum signatures designed to confuse enemy sensors. Implement Deception Protocol 7, she ordered. Human military doctrine had always emphasized misdirection and psychological warfare, because humans had usually faced numerically or technologically superior enemies. The techniques that had worked against other human armies proved devastatingly effective against aliens who expected logical, predictable behavior patterns. The Kepler station commander, Admiral Jextar, watched his tactical displays with growing confusion as his sensors registered dozens of contradictory contacts. The three human ships appeared to be everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Their quantum signatures kept shifting in patterns that violated everything the hegemony understood about spaceship operations. Are they using some form of cloaking technology? Jextar asked his tactical officer. Negative, sir. Our sensors are detecting multiple genuine quantum signatures, but the patterns suggest the humans are somehow manipulating quantum probability states in real time during combat operations. What the aliens didn't understand was that human engineers had learned to use the natural uncertainty in quantum systems as a feature rather than a bug. Where alien technology fought against quantum randomness to maintain perfect coherence, human modifications deliberately introduced controlled randomness to create unpredictable operational signatures. The Battle of Kepler Station lasted exactly 47 minutes. Human tactics combined space combat maneuvers with psychological warfare techniques that left the alien defenders completely demoralized. The station's powerful defense networks couldn't target enemies that kept appearing in impossible locations, and the aliens' own quantum communication systems were disrupted by proximity to human quantum field generators. Station shields are down, reported Santos's tactical officer. Enemy vessels are requesting permission to surrender. The words sent shockwaves through hegemony command channels. In over 3,000 years of galactic expansion, no enemy force had ever successfully compelled a hegemony installation to surrender. The concept simply didn't exist in their military doctrine. Admiral Jextar faced a situation for which his species had no cultural framework. Surrender implied that the enemy was offering terms that might allow survival, but humans had demonstrated capabilities that challenged the fundamental assumptions of galactic civilization. How could any species negotiate with an enemy whose technology they couldn't understand or predict? Captain Santos broadcast her terms in clear hegemony language, using communication protocols captured from alien databases. Kepler Station will be evacuated immediately. All personnel will be transported to the nearest hegemony facility under human escort. This installation will be claimed as a forward base for human operations in this sector. The response from Hegemony Command was immediate and panicked. Supreme Commander Veltar authorized the evacuation without attempting negotiation. The strategic implications were clear. If humans could capture and hold hegemony installations, the entire structure of galactic governance was in jeopardy. But the human expedition had larger objectives than capturing a single outpost. Dr. Vasquez had identified Kepler Station as a critical node in the hegemony's quantum communication network. From this position, humanity could monitor alien communications across 17 star systems and potentially launch disruption attacks against core hegemony infrastructure. We're not just establishing a military foothold, Sarah explained to the expedition's scientific team. We're proving that humans can operate independently anywhere in the galaxy. Every species under hegemony control is watching to see if we can sustain operations outside Earth's protective systems. The capture of Kepler Station sent ripple effects throughout the galaxy that the hegemony couldn't contain. Subject species that had accepted alien domination for centuries began questioning whether their overlords were truly invincible. Resistance movements that had been dormant for generations started reporting increased activity and coordination. On Earth, General Stone received confirmation of the expedition's success through quantum communication channels that the Resistance had captured from the aliens. The implications went far beyond military victory. Humanity had announced its presence as a galactic power capable of projecting force across interstellar distances. But Stone understood that the war was approaching its critical phase. The hegemony would not allow human expansion to continue unchallenged. Soon they would commit their remaining strategic reserves to a massive counterattack designed to eliminate the human threat permanently. The Resistance began, preparing for the final confrontation by scaling up their quantum disruption technology to unprecedented levels. If the aliens chose to launch an all-out assault on Earth, humanity would respond with weapons capable of disrupting quantum fields across entire star systems. Dr. Chen led the development of what the Resistance codenamed the Galaxy Shaker, a quantum disruption device powerful enough to cascade through the hegemony's core communication networks and disable their civilization's fundamental infrastructure. The device represented the ultimate expression of human engineering philosophy. Maximum effect achieved through elegant simplicity and willingness to accept calculated risks. If we activate this device, we'll essentially be declaring war on every advanced civilization in the galaxy, Chen warned the Resistance leadership. The disruption effects will propagate through any quantum-based technology within 100 light-year radius. General Stone considered the implications carefully. Humanity had never sought galactic dominance. They had simply refused to accept domination by others. But the hegemony's response to human independence was forcing an escalation that could reshape the balance of power throughout known space. The aliens made their choice when they decided to pacify Earth, Stone replied. Now they'll discover what happens when you try to cage a species that values freedom above survival. As reports arrived of massive hegemony fleet movements toward Earth, the Resistance prepared to demonstrate that humanity's greatest weapon had never been their technology or their tactics. It had always been their willingness to risk everything rather than accept defeat. The final battle for human independence was about to begin, and the outcome would determine whether the galaxy's future would be shaped by those who demanded submission or those who insisted on freedom. The hegemony's final armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, exactly 18 months after their initial invasion. Supreme Commander Veltar had assembled the largest military force in galactic history, over 3,000 ships representing the combined fleets of 17 star systems. The Armada's mission was simple and absolute: eliminate the human threat permanently. All vessels maintain maximum standoff distance, Veltar commanded through quantum encrypted channels. Under no circumstances will any ship approach within the range of human quantum disruption fields until we understand their defensive capabilities. But the Supreme Commander was about to discover that human defensive capabilities had evolved far beyond anything his intelligence services had predicted. Dr. Chen's Galaxy Shaker device wasn't just a weapon. It was humanity's declaration that they would rather destabilize galactic civilization than accept subjugation. General Stone watched the alien fleets approach from his command center buried deep beneath the Colorado mountains. Satellite feeds showed the massive enemy formation arranging itself in perfect geometric patterns, following tactical doctrines that had proven successful against dozens of other species. The aliens were preparing to fight the kind of war they understood. All quantum disruption stations report ready status, Lieutenant Andrews announced. Dr. Chen confirms the Galaxy Shaker will be operational within 30 minutes. Stone nodded grimly. The final device was so powerful that activating it would essentially destroy the quantum infrastructure that connected advanced civilizations across the galaxy. Communications, transportation, and manufacturing systems that had operated for millennia would simply cease to function. It was the ultimate scorched earth strategy. On the alien flagship, Supreme Commander Veltar reviewed his battle plan one final time. The humans had proven capable of disrupting individual ships and small formations, but no primitive species could counter a coordinated assault by 3,000 advanced warships. The plan was methodical and overwhelming: systematic bombardment of every human population center from maximum range. Begin preliminary bombardment of the third planet, Veltar ordered. Target all major population centers simultaneously. Leave no facility capable of producing or harboring quantum disruption technology. The first wave of alien energy beams lanced down toward Earth's surface from ranges that should have guaranteed safety. The beams had enough power to crack tectonic plates and boil entire oceans. No planetary defense system in galactic history had ever survived such concentrated firepower. But as the beams approached Earth's atmosphere, something impossible happened. The energy discharges simply vanished, absorbed into quantum disruption fields that surrounded the planet like an invisible shell. Impossible, breathed Veltar, staring at his tactical displays. No defensive system can absorb that level of energy without massive power sources. Where are the humans generating such incredible output? The answer would have horrified him if he had understood it. Humanity wasn't generating the power. They were redirecting it. Dr. Vasquez had discovered that quantum disruption fields could be configured to channel incoming energy into the Earth's own magnetic field, essentially turning the planet itself into a massive capacitor. All bombardment waves ineffective, reported the Hegemony Tactical Coordinator. Human defensive fields are absorbing 100% of incoming fire and converting it to unknown energy signatures. Veltar faced a strategic nightmare. His entire battle plan depended on overwhelming firepower delivered from safe distances. If human defenses could neutralize that advantage, his only option was close-range combat against an enemy that had already proven capable of disabling advanced technology through proximity effects, but the Supreme Commander had committed too many resources to consider retreat. The entire structure of hegemony authority depended on maintaining the appearance of invincibility. If word spread that humans had successfully resisted the galaxy's greatest military force, every subject species would recognize that rebellion was possible. All ships, advance to engagement range, Veltar ordered. Prepare for close combat operations. The alien armada began its approach toward Earth, moving in formations that had dominated galactic warfare for centuries. 3,000 ships advancing in perfect coordination represented the pinnacle of military science and strategic planning. Against any conventional enemy, such a force would be unstoppable. But humans had never been conventional enemies. As the alien fleet reached the outer edge of Earth's quantum disruption field, Dr. Chen activated the Galaxy Shaker. The device had been built in the deepest tunnels of the former NORAD facility, using components salvaged from across the globe and assembled by the finest craftsmen humanity could provide. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Quantum fields throughout the solar system began fluctuating wildly, creating cascade failures that propagated through every piece of advanced technology within range. Alien ships found their navigation systems failing, their weapons powering down, and their life support systems becoming dangerously unreliable. But the Galaxy Shaker's true power became apparent as the disruption waves propagated beyond the solar system through the hegemony's own communication networks. On distant worlds, quantum-based infrastructure began shutting down as the chaos spread through interconnected systems, faster than engineers could isolate affected areas. Supreme Commander. Veltar watched his armada disintegrate in real time as ships lost power, collided with each other, and suffered complete system failures. The most advanced military force in galactic history was being destroyed not by superior weapons, but by the collapse of the technological foundations that made their existence possible. All ships, emergency evacuation procedures, he broadcast on the few communication channels still functioning. Return to base systems immediately, but it was too late. The Galaxy Shaker had created a disruption cascade that was propagating through quantum networks faster than ships could travel. Every hegemony installation, from core worlds to frontier outposts, was experiencing the same technological collapse that had crippled the invasion fleet. On Earth, resistance fighters emerged from their underground shelters to witness the most spectacular display in human history. The sky was filled with falling alien debris as thousands of disabled ships succumbed to gravitational forces. The invasion that had begun with seemingly invincible technology was ending, with the most advanced fleet in the galaxy literally falling apart. Captain Santos led rescue operations to collect alien survivors and provide humanitarian assistance to enemy forces who could no longer threaten anyone. It was a gesture that perfectly embodied human nature. Even in victory, they chose compassion over vengeance. "We're receiving surrender requests from over 200 alien vessels," Maria reported. "They're asking for assistance with life support and emergency medical care." General Stone authorized full humanitarian assistance for alien survivors. The war had been about human freedom, not alien destruction. Now that the threat was eliminated, humanity could afford to demonstrate the values they had been fighting to preserve. The galactic implications became clear over the following months, as reports filtered in from across known space. The hegemony's quantum infrastructure had suffered catastrophic damage, but the effects weren't limited to their civilization. Every species that relied on advanced quantum technology was experiencing various levels of disruption. But rather than creating chaos, the technological collapse had an unexpected result. Species that had been dominated by the hegemony for centuries found themselves free to develop their own solutions and forge new alliances. The galaxy was experiencing its first period of genuine independence in over 3 millennia. Dr. Vasquez led international teams working to develop quantum stabilization technology that could help other species restore their infrastructure without recreating the vulnerabilities that had made the hegemony's domination possible. Humanity was sharing the knowledge that had defeated their enemies, helping to build a galactic community based on cooperation rather than conquest. 1 year after the final battle, Earth had become the unofficial capital of a new galactic alliance, built on principles of mutual assistance and technological independence. Species that had never been allowed to communicate with each other were sharing knowledge and resources in ways the hegemony had never permitted. Sarah stood on the observation deck of humanity's first purpose-built interstellar vessel, watching construction begin on a space station that would serve as a diplomatic center for dozens of species. The facility was being built using a combination of technologies that represented the best achievements of multiple civilizations working together. The aliens made one critical error in their assessment of humanity, she reflected in her personal log. They assumed that technological primitiveness meant intellectual inferiority. They never understood that humans had developed something more valuable than advanced technology: the ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome any challenge through sheer determination and creative thinking. The war that began with Earth's apparent conquest had ended with humanity's emergence as the catalyst for galactic liberation. The